Bill Gates, from curious dreamer to the man who changed the world. The rain pattered against the windows of a comfortable middle-class home in Seattle, Washington on October 28, 1955. Inside, Mary and William Gates welcomed their son, William Henry Gates III, into the world. Nobody could have predicted that this baby boy, born into privilege and possibility, would one day become one of the most influential figures in human history. Not through inheritance or luck, but through relentless vision, calculated risks, and an obsession that would reshape how the entire world works, learns, and connects. Bill Gates grew up in a family that valued achievement. His father was a prominent attorney, his mother a dedicated civic leader who sat on corporate boards and championed education. The Gates household wasn't just wealthy, it was intellectually demanding. Dinner conversations revolved around current events, business strategy, and the importance of using one's talents to contribute to society. Young Bill was bright, almost unnervingly so, but he was also headstrong and restless. His parents recognized early that their son's mind operated differently. He would absorb encyclopedia volumes for fun. He asked questions that stumped adults, and he possessed a competitive fire that burned intensely, whether he was playing board games with his family or arguing about global affairs. But intelligence alone doesn't guarantee success, and Bill's childhood wasn't without its shadows. Despite his brilliance, he struggled socially. He was small for his age, his voice hadn't yet found its confident tone, and his peers often found him arrogant or too intense. School bored him. Traditional education felt like walking through molasses when his mind wanted to sprint. His parents grew concerned. Here was a boy with extraordinary potential who seemed increasingly withdrawn and difficult. In a decision that would alter the course of technological history, they enrolled him in Lakeside School, an exclusive private preparatory school in Seattle, hoping the rigorous academic environment would challenge and engage their son. It was 1968, and Lakeside School made a decision that seemed almost extravagant at the time. They installed a computer terminal. This wasn't a personal computer as we know it today. Personal computers didn't exist yet. This was a teletype machine connected by phone line to a mainframe computer owned by General Electric. Computer time was expensive, charged by the minute, and most students saw it as a novelty. But when 13-year-old Bill Gates sat down at that terminal for the first time, something clicked. The logical precision, the immediate feedback, the puzzle-solving nature of programming, it was like his brain had finally found its native language. Bill became obsessed. He would skip gym class to write code. He'd arrive at school early and stay late, fingers flying across the keyboard, completely absorbed in creating programs and solving computational problems. It was here that he met Paul Allen, an older student who shared his passion for computers. The two became inseparable, partners in an endless exploration of what these machines could do. They didn't just use computers, they consumed every manual, every piece of documentation they could find. They taught themselves multiple programming languages. They found bugs in commercial software and boldly contacted companies to point them out. But obsession has a price, and bills came due in ways both small and significant. The computer time at Lakeside was rationed and expensive. Bill and Paul, along with other members of their computer club, began exploiting bugs in the system to get free computer time. When they were caught, they were banned from the computer for an entire summer. For Bill, being cut off from programming felt like being denied oxygen. Yet even this setback became a learning opportunity. When Computer Center Corporation, the company providing their computer access, discovered the boy's skills, they made a deal. Find bugs in our software and you can have free computer time. Bill and Paul dove into the source code with missionary zeal, learning at a professional level while still in their teens. High school should have been about football games and proms, but for Bill Gates, it was about code, business opportunities, and impossible deadlines. He and Paul started taking on real programming jobs, creating scheduling software for their school, developing traffic counting programs for local municipalities. They formed a company called Traf-O-Data that analyzed traffic data using a computer they built themselves. Most teenagers were earning minimum wage at part-time jobs. Bill and Paul were earning thousands of dollars solving complex computational problems for governments and businesses. Bill was learning something crucial. Technology wasn't just intellectually fascinating, it was commercially powerful. Then came the moment that would test everything Bill Gates thought he knew about himself and his future. In 1973, he graduated from Lakeside School and enrolled at Harvard University, one of the world's most prestigious institutions. His parents were thrilled. Their brilliant son was on the conventional path to success. Harvard offered unlimited opportunities: law school, medicine, academic research, a comfortable partnership in his father's law firm. Bill dove into mathematics and computer science courses, still the same intense, competitive student he'd always been. He'd stay up all night playing poker, skip classes for days on end, then cram intensely and ace his exams. He was clearly gifted, clearly destined for achievement. But something was wrong. He felt it in his bones, a restlessness, a sense that the world was moving without him. While he was attending lectures and writing papers, the technology revolution he'd dreamed about was beginning to happen in garages and small companies across America. In December 1974, Paul Allen, who was working in Boston, came running to Bill's dorm room with a copy of Popular Electronics magazine. On the cover was the Altair 8800, marketed as the world's first personal computer kit. Bill and Paul stared at that cover, and they both knew this was it. This was the moment when computers would move from corporate mainframes and university labs into people's homes. The future they'd imagined was arriving, and they had to act immediately or watch it happen without them. What happened next required courage that most people couldn't comprehend. Bill and Paul had no Altair computer, they couldn't afford one, but they called MITS, the company making the Altair, and boldly claimed they'd written a basic programming language that would run on their machine. This was a complete bluff. They hadn't written anything yet. When MITS expressed interest, Bill and Paul had only weeks to deliver on their promise. They worked with possessed intensity, writing code on Harvard's computers, simulating the Altair's architecture without ever actually touching one. They coded for weeks with almost no sleep, surviving on pizza and Coca-Cola, driven by the terrifying possibility of failure and the exhilarating potential of success. When Paul Allen flew to MITS headquarters in Albuquerque, New Mexico, to demonstrate their basic interpreter, it was the first time their code would run on an actual Altair. If it failed, their credibility was destroyed, their opportunity gone. Paul loaded the paper tape containing their program into the machine. The room was silent. And then, miraculously, it worked. The Altair displayed ready, awaiting commands. Their software, written in a Harvard dorm room by two young men barely out of their teens, performed flawlessly. MITS wanted to license it immediately. Bill Gates now faced the most consequential decision of his young life. He was at Harvard with all the security and prestige that implied. His parents expected him to graduate, to build a respectable career. Dropping out to start a software company seemed insane. Software wasn't even considered a real business in 1975. Most computers came with software included for free. The idea that you could build a billion-dollar company just by writing code seemed absurd. Bill's parents were horrified. His advisors urged him to finish his degree. Almost everyone in his life thought he was making a catastrophic mistake. But Bill Gates possessed something beyond intelligence. He had vision, conviction, and the willingness to bet everything on what he believed. In 1975, at just 19 years old, he made the call. He left Harvard. He moved to Albuquerque to be near MITS and their Altair computer. He and Paul Allen officially founded Microsoft, originally Microsoft, reflecting their mission to create software for microcomputers. Bill's mother reportedly cried when he told her he was leaving school. His father, a man who valued education and traditional success above almost everything, struggled to support the decision. But Bill knew with absolute certainty that if he didn't seize this moment, he would regret it for the rest of his life. The early days of Microsoft were anything but glamorous. Bill and Paul worked grueling hours in a small office in Albuquerque, a city neither had any connection to, far from family and friends. They were trying to build a software company in an industry that barely existed, selling a product most people didn't understand to a market that didn't know it needed what they were offering. Money was tight. The business model was uncertain. Personal computers were still exotic devices built by hobbyists in garages. Many people in the technology industry believed computers would.
Bill Gates responded the way he always had, with relentless focus, tireless work, and absolute conviction in his vision. Microsoft continued refining Windows through multiple versions. They convinced major software companies to develop applications for Windows. They leveraged their relationships with computer manufacturers to have Windows pre-installed on new PCs. It was a grinding, exhausting process that took years. But in 1990, Microsoft released Windows 3.0, and everything changed. It was finally good enough, fast enough, compatible enough. Sales exploded. Within 2 years, Windows was selling 1 million copies per month. By 1995, with the release of Windows 95, Microsoft had won. The launch was a global media event, with millions of people lining up at midnight to purchase the software. Windows 95 became the dominant operating system on the planet, and Microsoft's stock price soared. Bill Gates, at just 39 years old, became the world's richest person. The college dropout who'd gambled everything on a vision of personal computers in every home had not only been proven right, he'd built the software that made that vision reality. But wealth and success brought their own complications. By the late 1990s, Microsoft's dominance had made it a target. The US government filed antitrust lawsuits, accusing Microsoft of monopolistic practices. Bill Gates, who'd always been most comfortable writing code and making strategic business decisions, now had to defend his company in court, in the media, in the court of public opinion. His deposition testimony became infamous. He was evasive, argumentative, clearly uncomfortable in this adversarial environment. The trial was bruising and deeply personal. Microsoft was found to have violated antitrust laws, and there was serious discussion of breaking the company apart. It was during this difficult period that Bill Gates began to seriously contemplate what he wanted to do with his wealth and influence. He'd always been focused on building Microsoft, on winning in business, on proving his vision correct. But now, with more money than he could ever spend, with Microsoft's position secure even amid legal challenges, he started asking different questions. His wife, Melinda, whom he'd married in 1994, pushed him to think about philanthropy, about using their resources to address the world's most pressing problems. His friendship with Warren Buffett, the legendary investor who lived modestly despite being one of the world's wealthiest people, challenged Bill's assumptions about wealth and legacy. In 2000, Bill and Melinda established the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which would become the largest private charitable foundation in the world. Initially, Bill remained focused on Microsoft, serving as CEO and chief software architect. But gradually, his attention shifted. He began studying global health, education, poverty. He applied the same intense, data-driven approach he'd used in building Microsoft to solving humanitarian challenges. Why did hundreds of thousands of children die from preventable diseases? How could technology improve education in underserved communities? What interventions had the highest return on investment in reducing global poverty? In 2008, Bill Gates made another gutsy decision. He stepped away from day-to-day operations at Microsoft to focus full-time on the foundation's work. The man who'd built one of history's most valuable companies, who'd revolutionized personal computing, was walking away from the empire he'd created to focus on fighting malaria, improving sanitation in developing countries, and reforming education. Many business leaders thought he was crazy to step away at just 52 years old, still sharp, still capable of leading Microsoft to new heights. But Bill had learned something crucial. Success isn't just about accumulating wealth or building companies. It's about impact, about using your gifts to make the world better. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has since invested tens of billions of dollars in global health and development. Their funding has helped nearly eliminate polio, reduce malaria deaths by more than 60%, and bring life-saving vaccines to the world's poorest children. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the foundation was instrumental in funding vaccine development and distribution to developing nations. Bill Gates, the programmer who once stayed up all night writing code, now stays up studying epidemiology, agricultural science, and educational theory, applying his problem-solving skills to challenges far more complex than any software bug. The lessons from Bill Gates' journey resonate far beyond technology or philanthropy. His story teaches us that true vision requires the courage to act when others doubt, to persist when progress seems impossible, to risk security for possibility. When Bill left Harvard, almost everyone thought he was making a mistake. When Microsoft kept investing in Windows despite years of failure, critics said they were throwing good money after bad. When Bill shifted his focus to philanthropy, skeptics questioned whether a software billionaire could really understand global poverty or disease. But Bill Gates possessed something that transcends intelligence or wealth. He had the ability to see beyond the present moment, to envision what could be rather than settling for what is, and the determination to work tirelessly towards that vision, even when the path was unclear and the obstacles seemed insurmountable. He understood that the biggest opportunities often look like ridiculous risks to everyone else, that world-changing innovations emerge from the willingness to bet against conventional wisdom. His journey also reveals a deeper truth about success and fulfillment. Bill Gates achieved everything conventional society values: wealth, fame, historical significance. But his greatest satisfaction seems to come not from the billions he earned or the company he built, but from the lives saved through the foundation's work, from the children who will live healthy lives because of vaccines his funding helped develop, from the students who will get better educations because of programs his foundation supports. For anyone feeling trapped by limited circumstances, doubting whether their ambitions are realistic, or wondering whether taking a risk is worth it, Bill Gates' story offers a powerful answer. The future belongs to those who have the vision to see it, the courage to pursue it, and the perseverance to build it, even when everyone says it's impossible. Bill wasn't the best programmer of his generation. There were more talented coders. He wasn't the most charismatic leader. There were more inspiring speakers. But he combined technical skill, strategic thinking, competitive drive, and unwavering belief in his vision in a way that changed the world. Today, billions of people use technology that exists because a curious, intense teenager in Seattle found his passion at a computer terminal in 1968 and never let go. They work on operating systems descended from the software that young man created in a Harvard dorm room. They benefit from health interventions funded by the wealth that obsession generated. And somewhere, right now, there's probably another young person in another city with another seemingly impossible vision, wondering if they should take the risk, make the leap, bet everything on their belief in what could be. Bill Gates' answer, lived through decades of challenges and triumphs, is clear. If you truly believe in your vision, if you're willing to work harder than anyone else, if you can maintain conviction when everyone doubts, then the impossible becomes inevitable. The only question is whether you have the courage to begin.